So yesterday, while I was tattooing on TikTok Live, which I do often, somebody got on there and asked some questions pertaining to apprenticeships. Now, this person, they were inquiring, about the possibility of apprenticeships and how they work. Basically like, what is an apprenticeship? Does it cost money? Do you get paid? The ins and outs of it. And they were inquiring about it about their 17-year-old daughter. It was a loving father, and he was just trying to, help promote this career field for his daughter and help her get into it and just be a supporting father, which is an amazing thing. So I've been thinking about that since. So let's use this video to go ahead and talk a little bit about what apprenticeships can be, sometimes what they are, and sometimes what they're not. Now, this is not going to be albeit completely in-depth unload of everything there is to know about apprenticeships, but I do want to cover a broad spectrum. So typically, an apprenticeship is basically a situation where a person will go to a professional tattoo artist, at a shop or whatever that's local to them typically, and they'll work out an agreement where that person will take them under their wing and they will educate them in the world of tattooing. They'll teach them how to tattoo, It's pretty simple and clear cut, right? But is it really clear cut, and is it simple? And the big question, is it fair? So let's unpack that a little bit. So I want to talk about not only what I think an apprenticeship should be, but I will also talk a little bit about my own experiences with an apprenticeship that I've done. And I want to also talk about some things that you should be aware of before ever accepting an apprenticeship agreement with any artist or shop. Now, my apprenticeship, when it very first started, my apprenticeship was basically a situation to where I was expected to come up to the shop as I please. I had to buy all my own supplies, furnish my own clients, all that. There was really no laid out game plan for how I was going to be taught, what I was going to be taught. There was no time scheduling as far as when I need to be there, when I leave. I had absolutely 100% positively all freedoms of the world, which is good and bad. In that situation, the initial agreement for me was to pay $20 per day for the days in which I was at the shop, which is fair. Now, that progressed very quickly to where they wanted me to pay $100 a week, whether I was there or not, understandably so. And the last 6 months I was there, they wanted me to pay, because I was there for about a year and a half, so after about a year, they wanted to change the agreement between us for me to stay there to where I had to pay $200 a week to be there. I had to also pay half of all cleaning costs, half of the electric bill, half of what else was it? There was a few things else I had to pay. And they also wanted me to get my own, of course I had my own tattoo artist license, but they wanted me to get my own tattoo establishment permit and all the other things, biomedical waste contract for pickup, literally even put my own business name out on the front door. So essentially what they were expecting of me, which is actually the truth, they wanted me to open up my own tattoo shop within their tattoo shop. Now, what that turned into a situation of greed. I'm not going to call out this place. I'm not going to say the business's name because they still are in business still today in the same city in which I still reside in, and I don't want to do that. But it did teach me some valuable lessons, because during this time period in which that I worked for this with this company, there was things that I learned. I did learn some things along the way, of course. Naturally, you're going to. There was not a whole lot of attempts at education that I can remember, but I still did learn some things from the gentleman that owns and operates that business. He tattoos every day. I will say he had great work ethics, and so I did definitely learn some things from him. There was a contract between us, which is a good thing for both parties. That's a very fair thing. So from my own experiences and from talking to other people, and also offering apprenticeships a few times throughout my career to other people, and my failures and successes, and with that, I've came to some new conclusions about my thought processes when it comes to apprenticeships. First and foremost, if you are going out and you are looking for an apprenticeship, if you are talking to somebody about an apprenticeship, make sure before you ever agree and you start the apprenticeship that you and that other party, the artist or the shop or whatever, that y'all have talked about everything you can possibly think of, and it's all laid out on a contract. That is crucial. That is good to protect both you and that shop or that artist. It's good for both parties. So if you go into this situation and there's expectations out of you, which there should be, and expectations out of them, which there should be, it's clearly laid out and defined in the contract, so that way you can hold each other to a standard. That's a very fair practice. Do not enter into any apprenticeship without a contract. Not just a verbal contract, but one on a piece of paper, man, that both of you have made legally binding between y'all. Now, this is not legal advice. I'm just telling you what I suggest you do. Now, also, let's go over some of the questions that I've got asked as far as about apprenticeships. Like yesterday, the gentleman wanted to know, do you get paid during an apprenticeship? And the short answer, in most situations, not all, is no. In fact, a lot of apprenticeships, you have to pay them for you to be there. I've heard numbers ranging from $500, $1,000, all the way up to about $10,000 as the cost that an apprentice is expected to pay to obtain that apprenticeship. Now, that doesn't mean they all cost money. Sometimes payment comes different. Sometimes they don't want you to pay anything. Sometimes you might go to a shop, like one of the, I guess you can say, traditional routes, is you'd be expected to go to this shop and they would want you to work at that shop for a period of time, which can range greatly, before you're ever truly allowed to start getting taught how to tattoo. And a lot of times that might look like you're up there and you're sweeping and mopping, you're helping with clients for, getting their paperwork done, just, all like the daily to-day activities like that at the shop. And you'll do that more times than not. That is free work. That is work that you are putting in to show them that you really want it, that you want to be there. And this is not an uncommon practice. Now, there are some obvious differences. However, a lot of career fields have the same thing. Just like, say, a nurse, for example. If you want to become a nurse, some point during your education, as part of the requirements, is you have to do clinicals. You have to go to places more times than not, from my understanding. You have to work there for free and get so many hours in of on the job training. Now, so that's not uncommon, and it's not necessarily bad practice. Sometimes it doesn't work like that at all, though. Sometimes you pay them a set amount and they immediately start teaching you. So, do you get paid? Not always, but sometimes. And when I mean sometimes, yes, you can get paid. Let me explain. In the past, with people that I've taught to tattoo, one of my goals for these people was to educate them in a way that is timely and professional, but also gets them in a position to where they can start tattooing small, simple tattoos that are within their range of capabilities on people that are willing to let them do it, in the understanding that they are an apprentice and they are learning, so that way that apprentice can go ahead and start making a little bit of money. More times than not, a person is in this situation that wants to become a tattoo artist. They're not rich already. Maybe some are, but most of us are not. So we need to make money. I've found that the majority will be more successful if they are able to start establishing financial patterns, start getting some money rolling in, to help to pay the bills, to buy them food, or whatever things they need to help them progress through this climb that they're going to be climbing forever, but it's really, really a steep climb at the beginning of their career, and it can be extremely difficult. If any of you are watching this and you're already a tattoo artist, I'm sure many of you know just how difficult it can be to get into this career field, and it could be hard, but it's not impossible, not at all. So I know with my apprentices in the past, like I said, I wanted them to be able to make money as quickly within reason as possible. That was one of my goals with them. So they, and my apprentices, eventually, yeah, they start making money. I want them to do that. I personally did not charge them any money. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe I should. But me personally, speaking for myself, I really just wanted to help these people. I want to see them succeed. And I wanted to take away some of the obstacles that would seemingly be impossible. I don't know many people that can take a $10,000 check and hand it to you and say, hey, teach me tomorrow. I'm not saying they're not out there. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these situations, absolutely at all. But I don't really, know many that can. So, plus, a lot of times I want people that are hungry. Not saying that people that already have money pre-existing are not hungry or not have good work ethics, but that's what I was looking for. Also, whenever I was talking to this person, there was some concerns, and understandably so. You want to look for a place that has a good reputation. When you are looking at possible places to get and obtain an apprenticeship, make sure that you, as the artist-to-be, is looking at a shop that has a solid reputation in the city in which they reside. Do not go and take an apprenticeship just because it's the only thing you can find, because there are potential other options I'll get into in other videos. But even though it's not the recommended routes necessarily, there are options. So if you are looking at a place and they're offering an apprenticeship, but they are known to have a high turnover rate of artists or there's people there dealing with drugs and drama and just unhealthy and unpositive situations, very negative situations, you don't want to surround yourself there. You don't want to be mixed up in all that, because in the process of you learning how to tattoo and learning how to conduct yourself in a professional manner in this career field, you will learn a lot of bad habits. And a lot of these things will slow down your learning curve. So try your best, your absolute best, to try to get in with a place that has a good, solid reputation and that is very professional. You want a professional place. Doesn't mean it can't be fun, but it needs to be professional. Also, whenever you're looking for a place for an apprenticeship and you start negotiating the terms of this apprenticeship, make sure that some of the things that are outlined in it is somewhat expectancy on timelines. Meaning, I've seen some places, I've actually had potential clients or potential apprentices reach out to me in the past, and they're like, hey, is this normal? I've been working at a place now, and I've been sweeping and mopping the floors and cleaning the bathrooms and all this stuff for like 9 months now, and they keep promising me month after month that they're going to start teaching me, but never do. You don't want to be in that kind of situation. That can be a very unhealthy and unfair situation. So as part of that contract that you go over with them, make sure that there is some expectancy outlined as far as timeline goes. When do I start getting taught how to tattoo? What do I need to do for how long? And when does this education actually start? And what does that look like? That is a good, simple, very fair thing to be outlined in that contract. If there is any payments to be made between you and that other party, make sure that's outlined in the contract. What are you expected to pay? When are you expected to pay it? Is there any redundancies or anything in there for if you cannot pay it? What happens then? That's good things to protect you, but also to protect them. That's very fair practice. Also, exit strategies for you and the other party too out of this contract or this situation, if need be, if situations arise. That's another good thing for you to look at. Now, when I'm talking about these contracts, keep in mind they don't have to be incredibly complex. They can be very, very simple. These are just some things that I would recommend to be in it. Whenever you are also talking with these people, now this seems like such a simple thing, but it's very true. Make sure y'all all get along. If you cannot imagine yourself looking at this place and genuinely enjoy to be, if you can't look at this place and say, man, I would love to be there, we would have a lot of fun together, then you probably shouldn't be there. I'm not saying that it can't be a wonderful place for you to learn and to grow, but you really want to try to get into a place that is going to be a positive but fun, professional but fun environment. Definitely. Now, I'm going to make another video later, and maybe I'll outline this a little bit better, and I will go into a little bit more detail about these apprenticeships, what they can and cannot be. But this is just kind of a blanket overview for me to unload some of my thoughts about yesterday's conversation. If any of this helps any of you, don't hesitate, drop it in the comments, give me some questions, and I'll reply to those questions with videos and expand upon these topics or go more in depth. I hope this helps, guys. Stay awesome. God bless.